have a very special guest with me today, Dr. Kumar Janardhanan. He's been associated with Alert as a volunteer and also the Global VoICE Ambassador. So I'm very happy to have you, Dr. Kumar. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kay. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be associated with Alert, and especially with you being the driving force for this particular organization in these sports and Alertathon part of it. I think I'm really humbled that you have taken me along with you in this journey of what this NGO is doing and how they are able to be acting as the first responders and teaching every Indian citizen, that is their motive, to how to do the basic life support and try to save every Indian life, which is very precious. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. We start with a little introduction. I would like to know who Dr. Kumar is.
At present, I'm working as the professor of medicine and consultant diabetologist in SRM Medical College Hospital, Katanklatur, which is a tertiary medical college for teaching as well as for treating patients as well. My journey purely was a compulsion from my mom. I want to become a scientist because my aptitude for physics was much better than in medical science like botany and zoology. It's just her her pressure that made me to shift to medicine. And due to God's grace, I got through in the entrance exam, and nobody. I'm the first member in the family in medicine. Everybody are in business, and my dad is an engineer was engineer, and he's retired from Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Tumba, Trivandrum, and he was working under late Abdul Kalam. Because all those things inspired me to become a scientist. But then God has His own ways, as you say. I got into the medical profession, and since my dad became diabetic at the age of 42, which I was told, and he had some medical issues, I thought that I should take up diabetology as my specialty after I finished my medical course, basic medical course. And after my degree, basic degree, then I moved on to Australia to do my diabetology, and then for the expertise, I went to US, Joslin Diabetes Center, which is the mecca of diabetology. And without academic experience in Australia and the clinical experience in US, I had to come back to India since my parents were getting aged. So since then, I've been in India practicing medicine. And my endurance, if you want to look into it, because basically we doctors are better preachers than practitioners. So we tell our patients what to do and what not to do, but seldom that we do it in our life. So I thought that whatever I say, and I should also be implementing it first before I lay it on to the public or my patients. That's how I started to do jogging. That again due to my wife's pressure, because she was the first person in my family to go on to the road and start way back in 2011 with one of my good friend, I think you're a friend of yours also, Kannan Shankarampadi. He was the great inspirer and mentor for my wife, and my job was to chauffeur her to Anna University the wee hours of the day for them to do their jogging practice. So, and then I used to take her back home. Then it just dwelled upon me that just instead sitting and inside the car, why don't I also start walk around a bit, and that's how the bug caught me, and there's no way looking back since then.
Okay, no, it's amazing to see how you kept moving with the I won't say demands, the requirements of the family members. Like you started by saying that your mom was instrumental in you getting into the medical industry, and your dad was found to have diabetes at a much younger age. So you ended up doing diabetology as a specialization. And your wife said, she started showing a lot of interest in walking, running, and then you kind of fell into that rhythm of, kind of going along with the family members, and also at the same time finding meaning in every single aspect of your life. I really admire your commitment to being a practitioner, not just as a preacher, because I have come across a lot of doctors and nutritionists. So they're good with their excellence, their knowledge, their skill, but when it comes to they themselves following, it kind of falls apart. And that way, you stand up, you stand significantly there to help and guide. I've seen a lot of your posts on the Facebook and social media directed towards sharing your experience, and also during this COVID pandemic time, warning a lot of athletes about the usage of masks and how to take care of their immune system. And those are really wonderful advice, and especially coming from a doctor who is also an endurance runner. The trust towards those advice is multiple fold. And thank you so much for doing this on your own. And it's really amazing, and also rare to find this combination of doctors and also endurance athletes. Now, of course, this domain is growing in India. There are more and more people coming in and supporting and helping, because your deeper knowledge on science and physiology, and then the body, the internal aspects of our system, and how it can be compensated with our habits and precautions and safety. So this is simply awesome. Now, you mentioned about being a professor in the college. How are you basically integrating the students community to embrace an active lifestyle? Because what I have experienced is that a lot of students get caught in the busy lives of performance and marks, and a lot of distractions. What are you doing in that space, Doctor?
Yeah, now, I mean, even before COVID, we've been allowed to mentor our students, a small group. We have 150 students that come to us as and final year students. And plus, we have another 200 odd students who are in their early phases of their MBBS program. That is the second, I mean, the third years, fifth year semester, and seventh semester. So put together, I've been mentoring 100 students in one go. What I have, I do have now with this COVID. Even before COVID, we had a WhatsApp group where I get all these mentees into different semesters in different WhatsApp group, and they used to ask doubts, and I used to give them the academic advice. Along with that, I also make sure that there is some holistic development in them when it comes to physical activity, where I ask them to, being a student, I cannot be too much into running and all. What I said, ask them is to have an pedometer and just put in how much of steps you took per day. And they used to put some number, which I can't verify it, and I don't intend to do also, just to make sure that they are physically active on the whole day, I mean, throughout the day. There is always a misconception saying that you go to gym 1 hour, work out, and then rest 23 hours, you just relax at home. That doesn't do any help. So we have to be active throughout the day, except when you hit the bed at night. So that's how I used to start connecting with my students when it comes to physical activity. And when we do have these programs like Alertathon or any of those events, which are I keep pushing them to register. Even for a small 3K run or a 5K run, I ask them to register and make sure that, because first time when you put the bib on your chest and get the first medal, it is more thrilling than anything else. So it's just like that you're top of the world. And I had gone through that experience initially, and still for every race I have my butterflies in my tummy the previous night. So it's just like how Sachin Tendulkar feels on the anytime he goes to the bat. So it's a thrill at the end. So my students, a few of them have become a very good runner, and one of my students is a postgraduate, is a very good triathlete now, and he has done his half Ironman in a couple of places in Kona and other places. So I could see that I could inspire a lot, and a couple of them have really going dizzy heights now. So I'm very happy about it.
No, that's really amazing to know how you're engaging with the student community. I remember always looking up to my teachers. Whatever they say is golden. Whatever they do, demonstrate in actions during my younger years. As it's kind of they're setting that trend. If a teacher says something, it's really golden, and I would follow that. And that's exactly what I'm even seeing at my own home with my own children. So when as parents, we keep advising them about certain behavioral changes, and then developing some good healthy habits. But I think anytime a teacher tells the same thing, there is a lot more connection with that. And I think what you're doing is simply amazing, giving that hope and opportunity to the students, and also encouraging them, nudging them to do study. Of course, it is important. Practice medicine, it's important, but at the same time, being active. Because I strongly believe that if you can move, it's a privilege. It is not. It's not anything else. It's not about distance that you cover, the paces that you complete, or the number of medals that you can achieve in any sports for that matter. If you can move, it's a privilege. So make use of the privilege. It's God's gift. So just make use of the privilege. Now, Alertathon is an initiative by Alert. It's an NGO which has been kind of setting trend and leadership and developing more and more first responders in this country, more first aid and CPR aware citizen. Now, this subject is very complex because the magnitude in which the incidents are reported, the accidents are reported in this country, lives are lost. There is definitely a need for a big system revamp. And of course, we wish the government takes initiative in driving this kind of educational aspect of this right from the schooling system. What do you see as a struggle in the institutions that you're associated with? Do you see a prevalence of awareness amongst the students community, or do you see that we need more and more events like Alertathon to spread the simple awareness on the need of first aid? I'm not even going to the level of first aid training, right? So this is creating an awareness that first aid is important. So what is your view on how the students community can transform? And then also at the same time, you mentioned in the beginning that your family has a connection with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Your father worked with him, and now you're associated with Alert as a global voice ambassador. Alert's mission was set by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to train one person in every family to be a first responder. So how do you think the students community, what difference that they can bring as per your view, and what are the things that the students can do to themselves and the institutional responsibilities? If you can talk about that, it'll be nice, Kumar.
Okay. Fortunately, the Medical Council of India has made it mandatory that every medical student, before he passes out from the university, should be trained on basic life support. That has become a mandatory for the last 5 years or more, I could say. So from the medical student point of view, I think they all get trained. Without that, the certificate is not been issued that they have completed their internship. But when it comes to talking about the community in large, we need to have a lot of driving force into that activity, because everything takes some lot of time. You need some dedicated people to keep teaching them, because basic life support teaching itself is a great physical activity. It's just not opening the book and ask them to remember few phrases and what to do. It has to be a hands-on training that requires a lot of dedicated people from all professions. So we have a dearth in those trainers. B, in our curriculum per se, they don't insist on all these things to be done. I think we should also try to do something as an responsible citizen to see that whether we can also include this in their curriculum, basically in their school days, not when they go to college. Maybe in the 9th standard or 10th standard, this should be as a part of their what we call the physical training, PT, because you can have this problem anytime. It's not that even a kid can save an adult. A kid in the sense of the 9th standard, it doesn't require an adult to do that. And kids are more they don't care about all these things. They go and rush for help much more than an adult, because more and more as you age, you become more conservative in your thoughts. So why should I do all those things for? I think that we should focus more on schools, especially the higher secondary schools, where we can start this training. And later on, maybe once in 2 years, they have to redo the program. Then only I think, because unless you don't do it again and again, the skill just gets rusted. So I think that there must be a lot of a collective effort, both from the government side and from the citizenship, as well as this private NGO kind of so where we have to keep on talking about this. But you know that we all know that cigarette smoking is injurious to health, but then it doesn't. People don't stop it. But that doesn't mean that we have failed in it. But then our job is to keep on pushing our agenda so that it reaches the nook and corner of India.
Now, very rightly said, and I think there's more drive that is needed, and also the responsibility is with people with voice in the community, right? The teachers, the policymakers, and also, of course, parents. If every parent can take the responsibility of learning the first aid and also giving that idea in the minds of children, I'm sure there'll be a lot of lives saved. Now, coming back to the Alertathon, which is going to happen starting in 3 days, and I'm very excited to be associated with Alert as a volunteer, global ambassador, and also the event director. And we are going to see 5 days window to walk, run, and ride. And I'm already excited to say we are close to about 1,500 global participants. And very interesting, a large number of students have already signed up from certain institutions. So I think that drive and the importance is already realized, and we already started seeing the benefits. So what are you planning to do during those 5 days, Dr. Kumar?
Basically, I want to have students. So I have asked my mentees that try to. I know that they are having this, these exams. This is the exam week going on. I have asked them that just take, say, half an hour from your. Anyway, you are at home. Take a half an hour break. Now that September is a little more free in restrictions, so they can move around with the mask on. They can do a walk because most of them are at home. So I don't want them to run and get injured, because at least walk for about a couple of kilometers every day for next 2 to 3 days after registering, of course, and enjoy that experience of getting liberated, get a fresh air, and so that you can come home and read your lesson, because I'm basically their examiner. So I have also given them an incentive that if you're going to do this, at least by registering and doing a 1 day run, you are going to get an extra 3 to 4 marks. So you know that everything in India, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, it's all you need to give them a kind of an. It is not an. A kind of an incentive. So it's fine that if it's going to be incentive driven and that is going to help them in doing something, I'm quite happy. I myself am going to run all those 3 days. With the limited time I have, around 35-40 minutes in the early morning, because I have to leave house around 6:20 every day to reach my hospital, which is again exactly a marathon distance. 42 kilometers away. So I need to start around 6:20 every day. So maybe around 5:30 I will start, and I'll contribute what is best of my ability and make sure. And I also, my son who lives in US, we both have plans to run on the same time, two different continents, as if we can match the time zones well. Or maybe during the time I have give him the opportunity, so that father and son we are going to contribute to the costs.
Okay, that's really amazing to find a doctor and a teacher and also a motivator. You mentioned about the incentive part, and I should say that like a movement is a privilege for people to go around. It's a privilege, God's gift. You can run, you can walk, you can cycle, you can think about moving. It doesn't matter. We've also seen people without limbs showing that intent to move and stay happy and stay cheerful. I think learning first aid is also a privilege. If you can learn first aid, if you can help others, it is also a privilege. Dr. Kumar, really thank you for spending time with me today, and also standing as a source of inspiration and somebody who constantly motivates his students. It's certainly wonderful to learn a little more about you. And for those who are listening to this video, tuning into this video, watching this. Please note that during the 5 days event window, we're going to have an exclusive session with Dr. Kumar to talk about coming back to athletics after COVID. So I'm hoping to see a lot more participants coming and benefiting from Dr. Kumar's knowledge. And thank you very much, Dr. Kumar, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you. Pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much.